All right, now in this special edition of the broadcast, over the course of the next 30 minutes, we'll update you on everything that's happening around the world. Let's start with some news from India, where French President Emmanuel Macron took a dig at United States of America for pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement, as France and India gave a clarion call for action on solar energy during a summit in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will host French President Emmanuel Macron in Varanasi today. The two leaders will also inaugurate a solar power plant in Mirzapur. They will also be interacting with artisans at a crafts fair and later take a boat ride along the river Ganges. Now, ahead of the leaders' visit, people in India's northern spiritual town Varanasi conducted special worship and performed yajna. On Sunday, the locals prayed for a healthy partnership between India and France, aiming at world peace. The former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is in India for a private visit. Reports also suggest that Clinton will be in the city of Indore for a couple of days, and she may visit nearby tourist places for the next 2 days. Indian President Ramnath Kovind is in Port Louis as a part of his 5-day tour of the island nations of Madagascar and Mauritius. President Kovind is the chief guest at the celebrations commemorating the 50th year of Mauritius's independence. Indian Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will introduce a bill to provide for measures to deter fugitive economic offenders from evading the process of law in India by staying outside the jurisdiction of Indian courts. The thousands of farmers in the Indian state of Maharashtra are rallying against the government for its failure in dealing with the agrarian crisis. They march to India's financial capital Mumbai and will carry out demonstrations outside the state assembly to stress on their demands today. The 4 students who were a part of a large expedition group were charred to death after they were caught in a massive wildfire in Tamil Nadu on Sunday. Over 40 students were caught in the fire, out of which about 25 are still reported to be trapped. The 15 students have been rescued. A 4-year-old boy was rescued from a borewell in Devis in Madhya Pradesh after a 35-hour operation after he had fallen into the borewell. The boy fell into an uncovered borewell while playing in a village. Now, an army team was roped in to rescue the young boy in a race against time as the boy was stuck 30 feet below the surface. A victim of serial blast of 1993 in India's financial capital Mumbai, Kirti Ajmera, is still awaiting his monetary compensation and attention from the government as he struggles with a second chance at life due to his multiple injuries. Around 25 tribal couples tied the knot in a mass marriage ceremony organized by a local charity organization in India's western Surat city. The beautifully dressed young men and women from tribal families got married as per traditional Hindu rituals in the presence of their friends and family members. A workers' convention organized by Pakistan's ruling party PMLN in Sialkot witnessed high drama when a man threw black ink at Foreign Minister Khwaja Asif during his speech. The workers grabbed the man and then thrashed him before handing him over to the police. A man was beaten up and then handed over to the police for allegedly trying to hurl a shoe at Pakistan's Tehreek-e-Insaf chief Imran Khan on Sunday. The suspect claimed that he was sent by the son-in-law of Punjab Law Minister Rana Sanaullah to attack Imran Khan. In another shoe attack that took place in Pakistan, a shoe was thrown at former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. The incident took place in Lahore's Jamia Naima Seminary when Sharif reached the dais to address the participants at an event. A rights activist in Pakistan expressed concern over a court ruling that would require people to declare their religion on all official documents. They say that this could actually lead to the persecution of minorities, and the Islamabad High Court ruling on Friday has also required that citizens take a religious oath upon joining the civil service, the armed forces and the judiciary. A helicopter carrying several people crashed in New York City's East River, killing about 2 people and critically injuring 3 others. The police and the fire department divers were in the water around the partially submerged aircraft. 1 person has been rescued. China removed presidential term limits from its constitution, giving President Xi Jinping the right to remain in office indefinitely and confirming his status as the country's most powerful leader since Mao Zedong died more than 40 years ago. The Syrian army broke apart the rebel enclave in eastern Ghouta, cutting off 2 major towns from the rest of the area after a fierce gun battle that was waged under the cover of unrelenting air bombardment. The Syrian state television showed civilians hiding in a basement after government forces captured eastern Ghouta town of Misraba. More than 1,100 civilians have been killed so far in the onslaught on the biggest rebel stronghold near Damascus since it began 3 weeks ago. The US Defense Secretary James Mattis has warned Syria that it would be very unwise for the government forces to use weaponized gas, as he cited unconfirmed reports of chlorine attacks in eastern Ghouta and also slammed the Russian support for Damascus. The Mattis stopped short of threatening to retaliate against the Syrian forces if chlorine attack were confirmed. Protesters thought to be opposed to Turkey's war against Syrian Kurds held a demonstration at Britain's Manchester Piccadilly station, preventing trains from entering and leaving. The protesters also carried the Kurdistan PKK, YPG and also the HPG flags and then chanted "Terrorist Erdogan" as they marched through the station before climbing onto the tracks, disrupting trains. Chris Liddle, a former executive at Microsoft Corporation and also General Motors Company, is under consideration to become the US President Donald Trump's top economic advisor. Divided citizens met through a border fence separating Tijuana and San Diego, with President Donald Trump scheduled to visit the area to see the prototypes erected for his proposed wall to traverse between Mexico and the United States international border. The hundreds of people who visited the ZZ restaurant or the Mill pub in the English city of Salisbury were told to wash their clothes after traces of nerve agent used to attack a former Russian spy last week were found at both the sites. The vehicles that may have come in contact with the nerve agent used to attack a former Russian spy last week were removed from a police station car park in Salisbury. Russia has successfully launched a hypersonic missile on Saturday, which President Vladimir Putin has called an ideal weapon as a part of his armaments boost. Now, Vladimir Putin has said that the missile can actually fly 10 times the speed of sound and can overcome air defense systems. A private Turkish plane that was flying from the United Arab Emirates to Istanbul crashed in the south of Iran, killing all 11 people on board. The aircraft was a Canadian-made Bombardier. It had 8 passengers and 3 crew members on board, and the cause of the crash is not known yet. Dozens of Palestinian mourners near the West Bank city of Nablus held a funeral for a Palestinian who was shot and killed in what began as a clash between Palestinians and Israeli settlers in the occupied West Bank. A dispute within Israel's governing coalition over the military conscription of ultra-Orthodox Jewish men has stirred speculation that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wants to see a snap election to help him survive the corruption investigation. The majority of Peruvians want President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski to resign or be forced out of the office by the Congress, and this according to a poll. Kuczynski had narrowly survived an impeachment bid in the month of December, but opposition lawmakers are in fact making a new push to unseat the central leader over his ties to a Brazilian company. "45,000 Catalan supporters demonstrated in Barcelona, calling on politicians to move ahead with negotiations to elect a new leader. The Sunday marked the 7th anniversary of the 2011 earthquake and the tsunami which struck northeastern Japan and left more than 18,000 people dead or missing. Some of the people relocated by the disaster are still living in extremely difficult conditions. As Hong Kong residents voted on Sunday for a bitterly contested Legislative Council by-election, a subdued atmosphere and lower turnout compared to last year have candidates worrying and campaigning more aggressively. Hundreds of people marched to protest nuclear power in Taiwan 7 years after an earthquake caused nuclear outfall at Fukushima's Daiichi nuclear power plant, demanding that the government to abolish nuclear power. A mosque and also a Turkish cultural club in the German capital of Berlin was set ablaze by a suspected arson attack on Sunday morning. The police and the fire brigade were called to the scene by residents who had witnessed 3 teenagers running away from the site of the attack. Pope Francis has expressed concerns over national policies dictated by fear, speaking only a week after Italy's national elections, which brought populist and anti-immigrant parties to the forefront. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen has proposed her National Front party be renamed the National Rally in a bid to shed a brand that's associated by many voters with racism and anti-Semitism and to facilitate alliances with other parties. The conservative billionaire Sebastián Pinera was sworn in as Chile's president on Sunday, returning to the job after 4 years of center-left rule, with promises to revive investments in the world's top copper producer. After his swearing-in ceremony at the Congress, Chile's newly inaugurated president Sebastián Pinera and also his wife Cecilia Morel hosted an event with several Latin American presidents at the official country retreat and summer residence, the Cerro Castillo Palace in Vina del Mar. In a ballot that marks the electoral debut of the FARC's political party made up of former members of the rebel group, Colombians went to the polls in party primaries to select the candidates who will compete in May's election to replace outgoing centre-right President Juan Manuel Santos. Miguel Díaz-Canel, the person expected to become the next president of Cuba, and the Cuban President Raúl Castro have cast their votes in a one-party vote. The last step before a new president is selected next month. This as the island prepares to be led for the first time since 1959 revolution by someone whose last name is not Castro. The Sierra Leone's presidential election results were too close to call after 3/4 of the votes had been counted on Sunday, with the two front-runners neck and neck, making a second round highly likely. The main opposition leader, Julius Maado Bio, took a slight lead with 43.3% of the votes against the ruling All People's Congress candidate. The thousands of people marched in southern Macedonia to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the deportation and the eventual death of almost the country's entire Jewish population. The public officials, civic group representatives and relatives of former Macedonian Jews came from Israel, Latin America and also the United States to attend the event in the town of Bitola. The U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson honored the victims of the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombing in Nairobi at a wreath-laying ceremony on Sunday. The families of the 218 victims and several survivors were in the audience as Tillerson gave remarks near the Remembrance Wall at the August 7th Memorial Park. Mexico's Attorney General's office has said that a blast that injured more than 24 people in February in the Mexican resort town was not an act of terrorism or organized crime. He further added that the explosion on a ferry that was docked at a Playa del Carmen pier was set off by a rudimentary or a homemade device. Ghana is poised to become the world's fastest growing economy with a projection to register a growth between 8.3 to 8.9% this financial year. The analysts attribute the African nation's growth prospects to the country's oil and cocoa production. The Saudi King Salman has ordered the establishment of specialized departments in the Public Prosecutor's Office to investigate and prosecute corruption cases. The move is intended to increase the effectiveness and also accelerate the process of combating corruption in the country. The Capitol Plaza Tower in Frankfurt, Kentucky was taken down in an implosion. The 28-story government building is about 5 decades old, and reports suggest that a new building will be built at the same site. The deafening roars echoed in the streets of Paris on Sunday as bikers drove around the French capital in support of women's rights. As many as 1,000 bikers, both male and female, participated in a parade that has been dubbed as Tutors on Moto, which means women on your bike, celebrating the International Women's Day. The James Corden and Daisy Ridley were amongst the stars to hit the green carpet at the Peter Rabbit UK premiere in London. Talking about the film, Corden, who plays the titular rabbit, said that there is a message of acceptance in the movie. Guillermo del Toro, who won the Best Director and Best Film at the 2018 Oscars, has returned to visit his hometown, the western Mexican city of Guadalajara. He's there to attend the Guadalajara International Film Festival and to unveil the naming of one of the cinemas after him. The comedian Kathy Griffin is embarking on her comeback some 9 months after she provoked outrage and lost much of her work by posing with a fake severed head that appeared to depict President Donald Trump. The O.J. Simpson double murder case returns to the United States television with the 2006 interview that producers say will give viewers an unprecedented glimpse into the mind of the former football star.